chickens, are you guys alive? Oh, thriving. Today is Friday the 13th, which means that we are going to have a slight bit of a spooky feel to our video today. But don't worry, we're not straying too far from the cozy world. Today we're having a look at a game called We Harvest Shadows. It is a psychological horror game that leans into solitude and introspection, and what might be lurking just outside that quiet. I'm being very brave about this whole thing. We Harvest Shadows is developed by David Whaley, who is the creator of The First Tree. This is a deeply personal story, drawing from his own personal experiences, as well as being inspired by the true story of Christopher Thomas Knight, a man who lived in isolation for 27 years. And to just touch on The First Tree, that is a game that made me cry, and is actually one of the first games I covered on this channel. The First Tree is a beautiful story that really highlights the storytelling that I love within games. And because of that, I'm really curious and really hopeful that We Harvest Shadows is going to have that same deep storytelling and emotional impact. In We Harvest Shadows, you play as Garrett, a man with a past that is looming with shadows, who has chosen to live in isolation on this quiet, eerie farm. As you tend the land and manage your routine, the shadows around him begin to unfurl. On the surface, the gameplay is going to feel very familiar to fans of farming sims. You're going to gather resources, plant crops, tend livestock, and even decorate. But it also has some reminiscence of What Remains of Edith Finch, which itself is a darker narrative that ultimately is very compelling even to a cozy gamer. There is a sanity mechanic that builds some additional tension within the game. As isolation wears on Garrett, the strange picture at the bottom of the stairs starts to warp or show disturbing images. This is a reflection of both his sanity, but also the actual danger that he is in. So it really is best to follow his to-do list and don't go outside at night. Pacing-wise, this game encourages a slow approach to things. You aren't rushing to grow crops more efficiently or earn the most money. Instead, you are encouraged to observe and reflect and to build a comforting space, even when things feel a bit off. That blend of the routine and the disquiet really makes this game unique. And if you're worried about jump scares, don't be, unless you're prone to jump scaring yourself, which I have done.
Nothing but the clothes on my back.
The story and atmosphere is where the tension and scares lie. As the story unfolds through memories and environmental storytelling, take notice of how Garrett isn't just escaping the world. There seems to be something that he is hiding from or avoiding confronting. And the more that you play, the more that you start to piece together his story. What brought him to this lonely farm. And there is a very emotional element to the game. It can feel relatable if you've ever experienced burnout or grief or just the desire to disconnect from everything. In this way, the horror doesn't really come from jump scares and gore. It comes from being alone with yourself. And yet this is also where there seems to be hope. While the demo is just a taste of what is to come, there does seem to be a subtle narrative arc about healing, where you're rebuilding from a broken place. This might not be a story of grand triumph, but it is a story about small acts of care in the face of darkness. And that, in its own way, is its own kind of cozy. Now, is it a cozy game? That is definitely open for discussion. I personally don't tend to go towards a horror game to find comfort, as they tend to amp up my anxiety rather than relieve it. That being said, We Harvest Shadows feels the same to me as jumping into a cold pool. Jarring at first, uncomfortable, but as you get used to the atmosphere and the tension, it becomes comfortable. And honestly, it has its own peacefulness to it because of that. Of course, there are the tried and true cozy mechanics and cat that you can pet and feed, which honestly may have been the thing that soothed my anxiety the most playing this game. I just don't know how to get to the Meow? Hello?
Where'd you come from, little guy?
It's amazing how much that kind of relieves my anxiety. The game encourages you to decorate and build up your homestead, and it's not just for aesthetics. This is actually a mechanic within the game to help further protect your sanity. So my final thoughts on it are that We Harvest Shadows is really worth you giving it a chance, even if this doesn't seem like the kind of game that you'd normally go for. If anything else, for the story that this promises to tell. It has a rich and emotional narrative, and that is what guides the tension, which prevents it from overwhelming you. So if you are the kind of player who really enjoys a good story, I feel like this is going to be a very promising game. But just know that if you decide to play with the lights on and your headphones askew, no one's gonna judge you for that. I'm not even brave enough to have both headphones on. And it is safe to say that I personally will be grabbing a nice cozy comfort game to cleanse my palate after playing this one. And with that, I'll see you next time. We're encumbered with tomatoes, huh?